Hello, distance learning students. So we are going to be taking some notes in class today. So I'm going to have you do this via the honor system of actually engaging in this conversation as we go through the notes. To start, I'd like you to get out a piece of paper, and just like the image shows, you're going to divide it up into three sections: Scandinavian, Somalian, and Hmong. And I'd like you to pause this video and just brainstorm 2 to 3 reasons why you think each one of those groups might have come to the United States. Maybe you don't know that much about those 3 groups. Maybe you know more about some and less about others. Just take a minute and brainstorm, just like the attached image shows. Once you have brainstormed those different ideas, we're going to come back to this list. So as you go through and you take your notes, as you develop new understandings or better reasoning about these 3 groups, I want you to go through and add to the list that you've created. So let's take a look at our learning goal. It is the very last learning goal for our unit on movements of people. Remember, movements of people, our essential question is, why do the world's people move and what happens when they do? Well, one thing that they do when they move is they try to connect and to assimilate, but also not just assimilate, but also to try to hold on to who they are and to connect with other people who have similar history, background, shared interest, cultural components, and experiences as they did. So oftentimes they look for people who have come to the same place from the same location. So as we looked at migration streams, that idea that sometimes people come from one place, there might be some large push factors going on, making people in large numbers leave a particular country. And then those pull factors draw those same people into a new country in a large pattern, a large stream of network. So our learning goal, one more time, I don't think I actually went over it. I can compare and contrast the development of diasporic communities throughout the world due to regional conflicts and changing economic and environmental factors. So we're going to start to break that down a little bit. Your end goal is to be able to compare and contrast. So today you're going to get 3 different groups that you can use for that compare and contrast. We're going to start by taking a look at what the words regional conflict, changing economic factors, and changing environmental factors mean, as well as what does community diaspora or a diasporic community mean. All right, so next, I want you guys to, again, pause the video, and you're going to look up these different words to try to get a better understanding of what the words mean. So environmental factors, economic factors, regional, conflict, those 2 separate words because it's hard to find them together, and then community diaspora or diasporic community. Pause and go ahead and write these down in your notes, and then we'll go over them once you are done. Okay, again on the honor system, I am assuming that you did that work. Let's go over what they mean. So environmental factors would be anything in a person's environment. It can be the temperature, it can be the food that grows there, it can be added pollutants, it could be how tightly populated or densely populated the area is. It could be things like sound pollution, lighting, infestations of bugs or parasites. All of that can be environmental factors. So just things that are in your environment. And oftentimes we look at environmental factors and we're seeing that, usually those are some of the push factors that would cause somebody to leave a particular area. Economic factors are the factors that affect the economy, include interest rate, tax rates, law, policies, wages, and governmental activities. Often what it comes down to for people who are moving, when we look at push-pull factors, would be the level of government involvement in providing for people when they have real needs, like with healthcare or access to food and water, and then the availability of jobs. So that can be some of those push and pull factors too. Associated with economic factors would be oftentimes jobs, the availability of jobs, and the types of jobs that are available, the types of pay that is available. Okay, region is basically an area of the world that you can sort of unite or describe using some shared characteristics. Conflict is just fighting between groups of people. Could be countries, could be groups within a country. And then community diaspora, or a diasporic community, is a widely dispersed community as a result of a natural disaster, politics, etc. A diaspora is a dispersion of people from their original homeland to the community formed by those people. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. If you think of like a Chinatown, you can see Chinatowns pop up in major cities around the world, DC, LA, New York City. That would be a population of people who are of Chinese descent that have resettled into the new environment and have held on to cultural components that remind them of China, whether it's cuisine or art or use of the color red or religion, those kinds of things that sort of unite and bind people together, that shared history, that shared experience. You will see that in that as a diasporic community. That would be a great example. We're going to look at 3 communities that you may already have some exposure to because they are prevalent within Minnesota, and it's possible that you might have talked about these 3 communities when you looked at your 6th grade Minnesota Studies course, depending on who you had. All right, so getting into the actual notes then. We're going to start by taking a look at Scandinavian migration. So when we look at what is Scandinavia, here is a map of the area. Oops, sorry, it didn't scroll in. My bad. Here's a map of the area. So if you are looking at, this is Europe. It's kind of like that northern portion of Europe, and here it is blown up. If you are of, if your parents or you are descended from Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, or Denmark, those would be the countries that we're looking at for the Scandinavian migration. So similar areas would be Germany and Poland. Sometimes people say that they're Scandinavian if they're from those countries. Technically that wouldn't be, but they have shared experiences as well. So what were some of the push and pull factors? During the 1800s and the 1900s, large waves of people from Scandinavia were moving out of Scandinavia, emigrating out, and immigrating into the United States, in particular to Minnesota. Push and pull factors. So there was some political strife going on during that time, some vying of power in the 1800s and the 1900s. This would be pre-World War I, but there were some internal conflicts going on. There was also some changes in society, the way in which political rule happened, who was in charge, how did those old kingdoms, sort of we're looking at like kings and queens, how did that change into more like rule of the people? There was some turmoil there. There were also some regional conflicts among different borders, and then some large agricultural disasters. There was the potato famine in Iceland, and then others in the area as well. These are the factors that caused people from Scandinavia to leave. So we have a little bit of regional conflict. We have a little bit of changing economic and environmental factors with the agricultural disaster, and then changes also here in the top would be regional conflict. So that is our first group. So if you haven't had a chance to, go ahead and pause and write those reasons down on the sheet, that the note page that you guys did. So circle any of the ideas that you listed and add any new ones that you just heard on this page that you started. Go ahead and pause if you need to. I'm going to move on. The next migration that we're looking at is the Somali migration. So here again, we have the map of Africa. Somalia is here in the east coast of Africa, next to Ethiopia and Kenya. So when we look at the Somali migration, push and pull factors, there was a civil war that was going on in Somalia in the 1990s. In addition to the civil war, of course, that would be a regional conflict. We saw massive agricultural disasters that really caused large amounts of famine to ravage the Somali people. So we had agricultural disaster, loss of farmland and livestock, a large famine. Because of the civil war that was going on, there was no stable government, no sovereignty, no sort of self-rule. And during this period in the 1990s, over 1 million people died. So people seeking a safe place to live where they had access to food, to water, to resources that would provide them with stability for them and their children. These would be some of those push factors that we're looking at. Again, regional conflict and also that environmental and economic factors that led to the Somali migration. Hmong migration, this happened in the 1975 to around 2000 as a direct result of the Vietnam War. So as we're looking at push and pull factors, here we have the region again. So we're looking at Southern Asia, and here is kind of the region where the Hmong migration happened. So now different from Somalia, where we have a particular country, here we have a ethnic group of people who identify in sort of a tight-knit group based on things like religion, shared experiences, and culture. But they're not specific to one particular country. They live in the mountain regions of many countries, including Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and China. And so during the Vietnam War, the Hmong people actually aided and assisted the South Vietnamese and the U.S. government in their war against the North Vietnamese. And so once the United States pulled out of the war, that left thousands of people at risk for being persecuted against because they helped the United States, and that was really seen as not being a good thing for the Vietnamese in the North who were, trying to reestablish themselves as the power. And so large-scale persecution happened after the Vietnam War. I'm trying to go over like a huge conflict in the world very quickly just to get at that Hmong migration piece. So the Hmong people, again, aided the United States. So once the U.S. pulled out, they were being attacked. Their lands were being burned. There was murder, rape, intentional against the Hmong people. So this is why they, again, left Vietnam, Laos, Thailand to flee that persecution. I'm trying to go over where we are at the notes. So yeah, they helped the CIA. Their farmland was taken, forced to assimilate into the new country or the new sort of order of communist rule in Vietnam. So we have, again, changing environmental and economic factors with the war itself, destroying the environment, the farmland being taken away, and then obviously a result of the conflict in the area. Okay, so we went into some basic background about push and pull factors in 3 different places. So again, we have Scandinavia, Somalia, and Hmong. So 3 distinct group of people, 3 different time periods. We have the 18 to 1900s, we have the 1990s into the 2000s, and then we have 1975-ish to around, I don't know, the 1990s to 2000s. What I'd like you to do now is talk internally, with yourself, write down in your paper about what are some community aspects. So I keep saying how like the Scandinavian people, the Somali people, the Hmong people, even I talked about Chinese diasporas, how they have like shared culture, shared experiences, shared things that they do, shared histories, religion, even things like cuisine and art and festivities. I want you to think about your own community, because we're going to try to transition now from like what are those push-pull factors into like what does it mean to be in a community. So I want you to write down in your notebooks 1 to 3 communities that you participate in, either yourself or with your family. So some suggestions when you're thinking about this, think about community events like a film festival, or I think it's Big Lake has the Tater Days, things like that. Holiday festivities. We just got done with many people celebrating Passover or celebrating Easter with pageants or egg hunts. Think about different organizations that you belong to, your hockey team, your dance team, your church group, Awana, whatever that might be. Or something that you maybe do in school, band or the yearbook or something like that. Maybe scouts, or then in your neighborhood. What are some community things that you are a part of? And think about like what makes that a community? What sort of things do you do together? What sort of shared experiences do you have when you think about that group of people that you're with? What kind of feelings do you have? What kind of things do you do together, like memories? Do you have things that you do annually, every year? Take a minute to write those things down. And then this is going to be the end of our notes section for today. So I do hope that you paused the video and that you did these activities as we went, and we will pick up with the second section of the notes as your agenda item for tomorrow. Please email me if you have any questions, and I will see you in video style tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.